So this is a diagram of the structure of the Earth. And we can see quite clearly that the Earth is made up of different layers. So there's the most outer layer is called the crust, and this is here shaded as grey. Importantly here, you'll notice that this diagram, this triangular diagram here, is not actually to scale. So the crust isn't that thick, isn't this thick. This diagram, the circle, is to scale, so you can see this bit of grey here, that really thin layer of grey on the outside of the Earth, that's how big the crust is compared to the rest of the layers of the Earth. It's really thin. In some places it's only 5 kilometres thick. But yeah, the crust is the first layer of the Earth. So the crust is the first layer, it's quite thin. Underneath the crust, so if you could dig straight down from wherever you're sitting right now, you'd have to dig through the crust. And then once you got through the crust, you'd get to the mantle. So there's an upper mantle and a lower mantle actually, but these areas here are the mantle. The mantle starts off at about 500 to 900 degrees Celsius, right at the top near the crust, and it actually moves down to being around about 4,000 degrees, the mantle. So the mantle is quite hot. They say the mantle is highly viscous. So if something is viscous, it means it's really thick. So water is not very viscous, you can pour it, but honey is very viscous. You can pour it, but it pours really, really slowly. Well, the mantle is ridiculously viscous. So I suppose you could pour it, but it would take forever to pour. So it's really, really, really thick, but it does slowly, slowly move. So that's the mantle. And then underneath the mantle, or towards the center of the Earth, there's an outer core and an inner core. And the middle of the inner core actually gets to, over 5,000 degrees Celsius in temperature. So it gets really, really hot. So the upper mantle starts at about 500 degrees Celsius. Right about here, it'll be about 5,000 degrees Celsius, 500, sorry. And then in the inner core, right in the middle of the Earth, would be about 5,000 degrees Celsius. So the Earth actually gets hotter the deeper and deeper down you go. So if you were to dig, you'd have to have some sort of super duper suit on to stop yourself getting burnt. But that's basically the structure of the Earth. It starts off with a crust. That's the bit you can see, really. And then there's an upper mantle. It's called a lower mantle, some people call it. There's an outer core and there's an inner core. It gets hotter the closer you go to the center of the Earth. And if we were to measure from the center of the Earth all the way to the surface of the Earth, we'd find that it was around about 6,300 kilometers. So the Earth's pretty big and it's made up of a bunch of different layers.